There are, as I understand it, three universal truths in this life: death, taxes, and the fact that a large blue tarp, no matter how tightly you secure it, will always find a way to collect a puddle. I was staring at this very puddle on a damp Tuesday morning, coffee in hand. It was, in the grand scheme of puddles, a pathetic specimen. It wasn't a lake, it wasn't a pond. It was a topographical inconvenience, a sag in the bright blue vinyl that covered a pile of 2x4s and plywood. This was my shed project. My permitted shed project, I might add. I'd spent 3 weekends getting the foundation blocks level, and now I was just waiting for a dry spell to get the framing up. The tarp was just a temporary measure to keep the expensive, non-returnable lumbar from warping. The puddle itself? Maybe a gallon of water, max. A robust squirrel could drown in it, maybe, if he was really depressed and gave up on life mid-stroke. It was just rainwater, innocent, sky-based H2O. I took a sip of coffee and looked up, right into the window of the house next door. And as always, she was there. Brenda. She was standing in her kitchen window, framed by little floral curtains, sipping from a delicate teacup. She wasn't just looking. She was observing, monitoring, judging. We'd lived next to her for 6 years, and I don't think I'd ever seen her not watching. She was the self-appointed guardian of our street's crippling mediocrity, a human ring camera with a perm. I gave her my standard, "Hey neighbor," wave. She didn't wave back. She never did. She just stared, her gaze flicking from my face down to the tarp and lingering on the puddle. Then she took a slow, deliberate sip of tea. "Weirdo," I muttered, turning back to my project. I had a real job to get to. I chugged the rest of my coffee, grabbed my keys, and figured I'd dump the puddle when I got home. It was just water. What was the worst that could happen? I found out at 5:30 p.m. I checked the mail on my way in, thumbing through the usual junk, coupons for pizza I wouldn't order, a credit card offer with an APR that looked like a typo, and one crisp, official-looking envelope. It was from the City of Northwood, Code Enforcement Division. "Great," I said, walking into the kitchen. My wife, Sarah, was chopping vegetables. "Permit update, probably." "Oh, good," she said, not looking up. "Did they approve the shingle color?" "We'll see." I tore it open, expecting a simple form. Instead, it was a single, heavy stock piece of paper. At the top, in large, angry letters, it said, "Official notice of violation and fine." My stomach did a little flip. Honey?" Sarah turned around, wiping her hands on a towel. "What is it?" "It's a fine. A fine." "A fine for what?" she said, walking over. "The shed is permitted. I laminated the permit myself. It's right on the garage window." I read the text out loud, my voice getting higher with every word. Per Municipal Code 112.b, pertaining to public nuisance and vector control. A violation was observed at this property. I scanned down. It just says unmanaged standing water, a potential mosquito breeding ground. $100. We stared at each other. "Standing water?" Sarah said. "What's standing water? We don't have standing water." I don't know." I walked to the sink and looked out the window. "The bird bath? We clean that every weekend." "The dog's bowl?" "It's inside, Sarah." "That little pothole at the end of the driveway? That's city property." My eyes scanned the yard, looking for this supposed swamp of contagion I was harboring. I saw my neatly edged lawn. I saw the permitted foundation blocks. I saw the pile of lumbar, and I saw the blue tarp. And on the blue tarp, I saw the puddle. My blood went cold. No, I whispered. What? Sarah asked. No, she wouldn't. I looked up, right at Brenda's window. The light was on, but she was gone from her usual post. I squinted. Then I saw her. She was on her front porch, watering a hanging basket of petunias, a little smirk playing on her lips. She saw me looking. She didn't wave. She just gave a slow, satisfied nod, like a Roman emperor condemning a gladiator, and turned to go back inside. She reported me. I crumpled the letter in my fist. The paper was so thick it actually fought back. That psycho reported me. For rain. Frank, she can't do that, Sarah said, though her voice was full of dawning horror. She did. Unmanaged standing water. It's the only possible thing. That thimbleful of water on the tarp. $100? For a puddle? That's insane. Just dump it out. We're not paying that. I'm not paying it, I growled. But I'm not just dumping it. I'm fighting it. This is America, damn it. You can't fine a man for precipitation. Oh, you sweet, naive summer child, I thought to my past self. You really, really can. The next morning, I was on the phone at 8:59 a.m., finger hovering over the redial button. The code enforcement office opened at 9. I was going to be the first and loudest call of their day. City of Northwood Code Enforcement. This is Janice. Hi, Janice. I need to speak to someone about Citation 904B. My name is Frank Miller. I believe there's been a massive mistake. Please hold. The hold music wasn't even music. It was a 10-second loop of a flute solo that sounded like it was recorded in a high school bathroom, followed by a robotic voice saying, "Your call is important to us. Please remain on the line." After 4 minutes of this, a new voice picked up. "Vector Control, this is Henderson." He sounded like he smoked 3 packs a day and hated every single one of them. "Mr. Henderson? Hi. I'm calling about Citation 904B. It's for a puddle, on a tarp. A temporary tarp that's covering the lumbar for a construction project you guys permitted." I heard the sound of slow, deliberate typing. Clack, clack, clack. "Miller, Frank, 124, Oakwood Drive." "That's me." "Yes, I have the report. Filed by your neighbor, confirmed by our field officer." "Confirmed? Your officer came out and looked at a puddle?" "Sir, Ordinance 112.b does not differentiate based on the substrate of the standing water. Any accumulation over 1 quart that persists for more than 48 hours is a violation." I was stunned. Substrate? It's a tarp. It's plastic. It's not a swamp. It's not ground. It's a piece of vinyl I bought at Home Depot. It rained 2 days ago. What am I supposed to do, Mr. Henderson? Stand out there with a squeegee every time it drizzles? Do I need to build a tiny roof over my tarp? Sir, your tone is not necessary. My tone is very necessary. You're fining me for weather. You can pay the fine, Henderson said, his voice a flat, bureaucratic monotone. Or you can abate the violation. Or you can appeal, but the next hearing date is in 6 months. 6 months? What happens then? At the hearing, you can present your case to a magistrate. However, if the violation is not abated, fines will continue to accrue. This first fine of $100 will double to $200 if unpaid in 30 days. The second fine will be $200 and the third $500. My jaw was on the floor. So I have to pay the fine, even if I appeal? You can appeal the case, sir. The fine is due, unless you abate the violation. How do I abate rain, Henderson? I was yelling now. You remove the standing water, sir, and you ensure it does not reaccumulate. But it's going to rain again. It's spring. That's what it does. That is not the concern of this office, sir. Your options are to pay the fine and dump the water, or continue to be in violation. Have a nice day." He hung up. I stood there, the dial tone buzzing in my ear. I was trapped in the stupidest catch-22 in human history. I was being fined for a problem that was, by its very nature, recurring and uncontrollable. "This is extortion!" I yelled to an empty kitchen. Furious, I stomped outside, grabbed the corner of the tarp, and with a primal roar, yanked it. A gallon of water cascaded onto the grass. I spent the next 20 minutes re-securing the tarp, pulling it so tight you could bounce a quarter off it. I added 2 more bungee cords. "There!" I yelled toward Brenda's house. "Abated! Are you happy, you witch?" Her blinds twitched. I felt victorious for about 72 hours. Then, on Friday night, the heavens opened. It wasn't just rain. It was a deluge. A full-on subtropical storm that rattled the windows and had me checking the basement for leaks. When I woke up Saturday morning, the sun was shining. The birds were singing. And I had a sick feeling in my stomach. I walked to the living room window. The tarp, despite my best efforts, had sagged under the sheer weight of the water. In the middle of my yard, glistening in the morning sun, was not a puddle. It was a pond. It was Lake Fu, Brenda, and taped too. My front door, flapping in the gentle breeze, was another crisp, official envelope. My hands were shaking. I tore it open. Second notice of violation. Fine, $200. Total, due, $300. Below the text, there was a grainy black and white photo of my tarp, clearly taken that morning from the street. "She's documenting it," I whispered. My wife, Sarah, came up behind me, coffee in hand, and read it over my shoulder. She let out a long, weary sigh. "Just pay it, Frank. It's $300. It's not worth the heart attack." I looked at the fine. I looked at the picture. I looked at Brenda's house, where I could see her silhouette, watching. A switch flipped. It wasn't annoyance anymore. It wasn't frustration. It was a cold, calculating rage. This wasn't about mosquitoes. This wasn't about water. This was about her. This was war. And she had just allied herself with the most powerful, unthinking army in the world: municipal bureaucracy. "No," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "I'm not paying it. But I am going to abate it. I'm going to abate this thing so hard they'll name a holiday after me." "What does that even mean?" Sarah asked. "I don't know yet," I said, grabbing my laptop. "But I'm about to find out." I didn't sleep that night. I was a man possessed. While Sarah slept, I sat at the dining room table, a pot of coffee brewing, my laptop glowing in the dark. The house was silent, except for the click-clack of the keys and my occasional furious muttering. "This is it," Sarah said, shuffling into the kitchen at 3 a.m., squinting in the light from my screen. "This is how it starts. You're going to end up on the news wearing a tin-foil hat, ranting about property lines." "It's not about property lines, Sarah. It's about the principle," I hissed, scrolling through page 47 of the Northwood Municipal Code website. "They want me to abate the water. Fine. But they also said, ensure it does not reaccumulate. How? How can any human being ensure that?" By dumping it?" she offered, pouring herself a mug of coffee. "Or, and I know this is crazy, paying the $300. "Never!" I slammed my fist on the table, which woke the dog and made Sarah jump. "They're bullies. Henderson is a bully, and Brenda is a super bully, and you don't give in to bullies. You use their own stupid, convoluted rules against them. You're mixing metaphors, and you're scaring me. Listen to this, I said, ignoring her. I've been reading Ordinance 112. It's a work of art. It's 14 pages of pure, unadulterated nonsense. It defines standing water in 12 different ways. It talks about vector-borne pathogens and public amenity. It's written by lawyers who hate joy. Frank, go to bed. No, wait, I found it! I found it! My voice was a triumphant whisper. I've been reading 112b, which is the violation part, but I just clicked on 112.c. Oh, God, Sarah sighed. Oh, Ordinance 112.c, exceptions to standing water, violations. I read the list out loud, my heart pounding in my chest. The provisions of this section shall not apply to the following. 1. Chlorinated swimming pools in active use. 2. Managed decorative fountains or water features. 3. I leaned in so close my nose was almost touching the screen. 3. Stocked decorative ponds, managed water features, or established ecological habitats for the abatement of mosquito larvae. I stopped reading. The silence in the room was absolute, broken only by the hum of the refrigerator. A slow, dangerous, and utterly unhinged smile spread across my face. I looked at the ordinance. I looked out the window at the tarp, which was practically glowing under the moonlight, its watery burden shining like a beacon. I looked back at the ordinance. Established ecological habitats for the abatement of mosquito larvae. Frank? Sarah said, her voice small. What are you doing? Why are you smiling like that? I turned to her, my eyes wide with the beautiful, terrible clarity of malicious compliance. Honey, I said, my voice trembling with giddy adrenaline, I'm going to need the credit card and a shovel. I paused. No, wait. That's not official enough. That's not bureaucratic enough. I snapped my laptop shut. I'm going to need a contractor. A contractor? Sarah was completely lost. To do what? Build the shed? Frank, we can't afford a... No, not for the shed. I need a contractor to help me build a pond. A pond? We've talked about this. We don't have a good spot for a pond. Oh, I have the perfect spot for a pond, I said, gesturing out the window. Right there. Frank, that's the tarp. That's the middle of the yard. Exactly. It's not standing water if it's an eco-pond. It's not a violation if it's an abatement habitat. It's not a problem if it's a feature. I'm not breaking the rules. I'm just going to follow them, harder than they have ever been followed before. Sarah just stared at me. She opened her mouth, closed it, and then just shook her head and took a long drink of coffee. Okay, she finally said. Fine, whatever. But I'm not bailing you out of jail. And you're not to use the joint account. Use the emergency card. This, she said, gesturing at my wild-eyed face, officially qualifies as an emergency. I'd never loved her more. I grabbed the phone. I was going to be on the line at 7 a.m. as soon as the first landscaping company in the city opened its doors. This was happening. On Monday morning, I called the first company in the phone book with landscaping and pond in their name. Sal's Supreme Patios and Ponds. A gravelly voice answered on the second ring. Sal's, what do you need? Sal? Hi, my name is Frank Miller. I need a job done. It's unusual. Kid, I've built waterfalls in living rooms and put a putting green on a houseboat. Try me. Okay, I said, taking a deep breath. I need you to build a small, decorative, retaining wall with a professional-grade pond liner. Easy, Sal said. $5,000, easy. Where's the spot? By the patio? Round the back? No, I said. In the middle of my yard. On top of a blue tarp. Over a pile of wood. There was a long, heavy silence on the other end of the line. I could hear a distant radio playing classic rock. On top of a… what? Sal asked. A blue tarp. See, I have this puddle. I explained everything. The shed, the rain, Brenda, the fines, Mr. Henderson, the substrate comment, the 3 a.m. discovery of Ordnance 112.c. I laid out the entire, sordid, ridiculous story. At first, Sal just grunted. Then, I heard a chuckle. By the time I got to abatement habitat, he was wheezing. When I finished with, so I need to build an eco-pond on top of the puddle to make it compliant. The man was full-on, gut-busting, knee-slapping, laughing. I heard him put the phone down and yell, "Tony, get in here! You're not going to believe this!" He came back on the line, gasping for air. This kid. This is the most beautiful, petty, magnificent thing I have ever heard in my 30 years in this business. This isn't a job. This is art. I'm Sal. I'll be there in an hour. We're doing this for cost. I'm not even charging you for labor. The world needs this. 1 hour later, Sal's enormous red dump truck, logo emblazoned on the side, pulled up to my house. Sal, a large man who looked like he was carved from a block of granite and given a mustache, hopped out. He was still giggling. His two-man crew, Tony and a kid named Vinny, looked confused until Sal explained the situation. Then they started giggling too. Brenda's curtains were practically vibrating. "All right, Frank," Sal boomed, clapping me on the shoulder hard enough to realign my spine. "Let's build this monument to spite." They didn't just build it, they crafted it. It was the most over-engineered, ridiculous, and glorious thing I'd ever seen. They built a perfect 6-by-6-foot frame out of pressure-treated 2x4s, right on top of the tarp, perfectly enclosing the sag where the puddle formed. It looked like a giant, square sandbox. "Gotta have a retaining wall," Sal explained. "Makes it decorative." Then, they laid down a professional-grade, thick rubber pond liner inside the frame. They stapled it neatly. They caulked the corners. Vinny, the artist of the crew, carefully placed a border of smooth, tan-colored river stones around the edge of the 2x4s. Brenda, unable to contain herself, had come out onto her porch. She was wearing a bathrobe and holding her phone, clearly filming. "Morning, Brenda," I yelled, waving cheerily. She flinched and scurried back inside. "She's a live one, eh?" Sal grunted, leveling the stones. "All right, Frank. She's structurally sound. Now you just need the eco part. What's the plan?" "I'm on it," I said. "I'll be right back." I drove to the Aquatic Superstore, a giant warehouse of fish supplies. I walked past the 500-gallon sut, saltwater tanks, and the families buying goldfish, and found a 19-year-old with a name tag that said Kyle, and a profound lack of enthusiasm. "Help you?" Kyle mumbled, not looking up from his phone. "Yes. I need fish. Specifically, Gambusia affinis." Kyle's head snapped up. "Mosquito fish? Seriously?" "As serious as a heart attack. I need an abatement habitat." "Right on," Kyle said, a tiny smile playing on his lips. "HOA trouble?" "Code enforcement." "Oof, even worse. How big's the pond?" "About 30 gallons, I said. "And maybe 3 inches deep. 4 max." Kyle just stared at me. "A 30-gallon, 3-inch deep pond. For mosquito fish." "That's the one?" "You know what, man? I'm not even gonna ask." He sighed, grabbed a net, and walked over to a large tank. 20 fish, okay? They'll eat any larvae in that thing in about 5 minutes." 20 is perfect. Now, what else? I looked around. I need it to be managed and decorative. Give me one of those little solar-powered bubblers. The Lily Pad 3000? Perfect. And a bag of those flat black river stones for the bottom. And, ooh, 3 of those plastic floating lily pads. Make it look ecological. 10 minutes later, I walked out with a plastic bag full of 20 very confused fish, a solar bubbler, and $80 worth of decorative plastic crap. When I got back, Sal and his crew were sitting on the tailgate of their truck, eating sandwiches and admiring their work. "It's beautiful, boss," Tony said as I walked up. I got out the hose and filled the new square pond. The liner held perfectly. The water came up to about 4 inches, just as I'd planned. I carefully sprinkled the black river stones on the bottom. I planted the plastic lily pads. I turned on the solar bubbler, which immediately started spitting out a cheerful bloop, bloop, bloop of bubbles. Finally, I unwrapped the bag and dumped the 20 mosquito fish into their new home. They zipped around, seeming thrilled with their shallow, plastic-lined paradise. It was done. It was, objectively, the most ridiculous, ugly, and out-of-place object in the entire neighborhood. A perfect raised square of water sitting on a blue tarp in the middle of a yard next to a pile of wood. But it was my ridiculous, ugly object. Sal had one last touch. He pulled a small laminated sign out of his truck that he'd apparently made while I was gone. He hammered it into the 2x4 frame. It read, "Frank's Memorial Eco Pond and Larvae Abatement Habitat. Eastern 2025. City Ordinance 100 to 12.c compliant." I almost cried. "Sal," I said, it's perfect." "I know," he said, wiping a tear from his eye. "Now, let's see the old bat call this a puddle." The trap was set. Sal and his crew, their masterpiece complete, packed up their tools. "You call me if that Henderson gives you any trouble, you hear?" Sal said, handing me his card. "We'll be witnesses. This is a Class A, fully managed water feature." "Thanks, Sal, for everything." "Don't mention it, kid. This was the most fun I've had all year." They drove off, honking and waving. The yard was quiet again, save for the gentle bloop, bloop, bloop of my solar-powered bubbler. I grabbed a lawn chair from the garage. I grabbed a cold beer from the fridge. I sat down 10 feet from my new eco-pond, put my feet up, and waited. I didn't have to wait long. Brenda's front door creaked open. She emerged, not in her housecoat, but in her full going-to-the-store beige pantsuit. Her face, when she saw the sign, was a magnificent work of art. It was a kaleidoscope of confusion, disbelief, and pure, unadulterated rage. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. She was sputtering. I'd made a human being sputter. I gave her a friendly 2-finger salute and took a long, noisy sip of my beer. That was the breaking point. She visibly swelled with anger, her face turning a shade of plum I didn't think was possible in nature. She whipped her phone out of her pocket, her thumb stabbing at the screen. She put it to her ear, and even from 50 feet away I could hear her shrill, nasal voice. "Yes, code enforcement. I need to speak to Mr. Henderson immediately. It's an emergency." I just smiled, took another sip, and watched my new mosquito fish happily explore their plastic lily pads. This was going to be good. An hour later, exactly as I'd predicted, the white city-owned sedan pulled up. Mr. Henderson got out, slamming the car door. He looked furious. He had not had a good day, and I was clearly his last stop. Brenda was in her yard, waiting for him, vibrating with vindictive energy. "Right there!" she shrieked, pointing a bony finger at my creation. "Look! He's mocking you! He got a sign! He's flaunting it!" Henderson, his face set in a grim mask, stomped across my lawn, clipboard at the ready. He didn't knock. He didn't say hello. He marched right up to the pond and glared at it, then at me. "Sir," he barked, "what is this? I told you to abate the violation." I slowly lowered my beer, putting on my most polite, concerned citizen face. "I did, Mr. Henderson, exactly like you said." "This is not abated," he snapped. "This is just, you put a box around it." Brenda cackled from her yard. "He put a box around it. He thinks he's so smart." "I'm writing you a citation for $500 for failure to comply," Henderson said, pulling out his pen. "And I'm calling in a city crew to have this thing removed at your expense." I held up a hand. "Whoa, hold on there, partner. Let's not be hasty. We're all reasonable men here. You told me to abate the standing water violation, so I did. This," I said, gesturing grandly, "is my new decorative water feature. As you can see by the sign, it's Frank's Memorial Eco Pond." Henderson scoffed. "Sir, this is still standing water. Don't play games with me." "Is it?" I asked, my voice dripping with false innocence. "Is it standing water, Mr. Henderson? Or is it managed? Pointed?" Henderson's eyes followed my finger to the solar-powered bubbler, which was, right on cue, cheerfully spitting out its bloop, bloop, bloop of bubbles. "Because that looks like aeration to me," I said. "And standing water is, by definition, stagnant. This water, as you can plainly see, is in motion." Henderson stopped writing. His eye twitched. That's a toy." "It's a solar-powered aerator, Mr. Henderson. Very eco-friendly. Now, on to the second point. You were concerned about it being a mosquito breeding ground. A noble concern, which I share. That's why I took proactive steps." I pointed again, this time at the little dark shapes zipping around the water. "Are those fish?" Henderson whispered, leaning in. "Not just any fish," I said proudly. "Gambusia affinis, state approved for mosquito control. You can call them mosquito fish. They are, as we speak, abating any potential larvae. They are, in fact, an established ecological habitat for the abatement of mosquito larvae, as per section 112.c. Brenda had gone completely silent. Henderson looked at the fish. He looked at the bubbler. He looked at the sign. His face was going through an amazing series of colors, from an angry red to a pale, defeated white. "It's on a tarp!" Brenda finally shrieked, her voice cracking. "It's illegal! It's on a tarp!" I turned to Henderson, my face a mask of sympathy. "Brenda raises a good point. She seems very concerned about the substrate. Mr. Henderson, can you please show me the part of Ordinance 112 that specifies the substrate?" This was it, the kill shot. I was quoting his own words back to him. Henderson's jaw worked silently. He knew I had him. He knew I'd read the fine print. He knew there was no rule about substrate. He'd made it up to intimidate me. He pulled out his tablet and furiously scrolled through the ordinance, as if hoping to find a new rule he could hit me with. He found nothing. Brenda was hopping up and down. "Do something! Fine him! Arrest him!" Henderson finally looked up from his tablet. His eyes were full of a deep, profound, and beautiful hatred. He spoke through gritted teeth, each word sounding like it was being physically pulled from his throat. "This appears to be in compliance." "What?" Brenda screamed. It was a glorious, soul-shattering sound of despair. "It is," Henderson continued, his voice a dead monotone. "A managed, stocked, and aerated water feature. It is exempt under 112C. Have a nice day, sir." He didn't look at me. He just turned, stiff-backed, and stomped back to his car. But, Mr. Henderson," Brenda cried, following him. "It's ugly! It's on a tarp! He's smirking!" Henderson got in his car, started the engine, and peeled out, leaving Brenda standing alone on the sidewalk, her mouth agape. I raised my beer in a silent toast to the fish, to Sal, and to the beautiful, magnificent power of Ordinance 112.c. I was a king, I was the sovereign of my 6'6" eco-paradise. I had defeated the bureaucrat. I had vanquished the neighborhood tyrant. I figured I could finally get back to building my shed. I was wrong. Brenda wasn't done. If code enforcement wouldn't stop me, she'd go bigger. 2 hours later, as I was finally starting to lay out the floor joists for the shed, a real police car pulled up. 2 officers, Miller and Chen, got out. They looked young, and more than anything, they looked tired. This was the end of their shift, and they were clearly not in the mood. Brenda was on them before they even hit the sidewalk, pointing and babbling. "Officers, thank God you're here. He's creating a public disturbance. It's a bylaw infraction. It's an eyesore, and it's going to attract raccoons, and West Nile virus." Officer Miller, the older of the two, held up a hand. "Ma'am, please, just 1 second." They walked up my driveway, their utility belts creaking. Miller had his hand on his notepad. Chen was looking around, clearly trying to find the public disturbance. "Afternoon, sir," Miller said. "I'm Officer Miller, this is Officer Chen. We got well, to be honest, a very confusing call about a fish pond on a tarp." "That's it, officers," I said, putting my hammer down. "My eco-pond. Code enforcement already cleared it. Mr. Henderson himself was here. Said it was 100% compliant." Chen walked over and peered into the pond. "Huh. Mosquito fish. Smart." "He's taunting me," Brenda yelled from her yard, which she was technically not supposed to leave. "It's disorderly conduct. He's drinking." Officer Miller pressed his fingers to his temples and let out a sigh so deep it seemed to shake his very soul. "Ma'am," he called over to her, "owning a slightly ugly pond isn't a crime, and it's 7 p.m. on a Monday. He's allowed to have a beer in his own yard." "But the raccoons!" she shrieked. "Are there raccoons here now, ma'am?" Chen asked, deadpan. "Well, no, but—" "Sir," Miller said, turning back to me, "is this thing permanent?" "Just until the shed's built and the tarp's gone," I said. "Then the fish get a permanent upgrade. Just trying to follow the rules, officer." Chen was visibly trying not to laugh. He'd seen the sign. "Ordinance 112.c, nice." Miller just shook his head. "Ma'am," he called to Brenda, "this is a civil matter, or a code enforcement matter. It's not a police matter. Please stop calling 911. "But have a good night, sir," Miller said to me, tipping his hat. As they walked away, I saw Officer Chen give me a subtle, respectful, nice nod. They got in their car and drove off, leaving Brenda, once again, defeated on the sidewalk. That night, things got even better. Sal, the contractor, had apparently posted the photos of Frank's Memorial Eco Pond on his company's Facebook page. The post, which included a picture of the sign, A brief, hilarious, and slightly exaggerated summary of the story had gone locally viral. "This is what we do to bullies," the post read. "Big shout out to our man Frank for standing up to the HOA types and the pen pushers. Sal's Patios and Ponds is proud to be 100 compliant." By the next morning, the post had 800 likes. People were driving by my house. Slowly. They'd stop, point, take a picture, and give me a thumbs up. One guy, a UPS driver, yelled, "You're my hero, man!" I was a neighborhood legend. I was Pond Guy. 2 days later, it happened. The final, glorious nail in the coffin. A large wooden sign was hammered into Brenda's front lawn. "For sale." A month passed. Life returned to normal, or as normal as it can be when you're locally famous for being a jerk. The shed got built. I'm not a master carpenter, but the walls were straight, and the roof didn't leak. The pile of lumbar was gone, replaced by a handsome 10x12 structure that smelled of fresh paint and sawdust. The big blue tarp was folded up and put away inside the shed. And in the middle of the yard, the eco pond sat, its bubbler still bloop bloop blooping away. Sal, true to his word, came back. "Can't leave him in that shoebox, Frank," he said, pulling up with his truck. "You're a fish dad now. You got responsibilities." He wouldn't accept any money. "It's on the house," he said. "The advertising I got from your Facebook post? I'm booked for 6 months. Everyone wants a spite pond now." He and his crew spent an afternoon building a real pond. They dug a beautiful kidney-shaped hole next to the new shed, put in a proper liner, a real filter, and a waterfall feature made of stacked slate. It was gorgeous. The final step was the migration. I got a bucket, and together, Sal and I carefully transferred the 20 mosquito fish, my little partners in crime, from their temporary plastic palace to their new, permanent, and beautiful stone home. They zipped around, exploring the new depths, seeming overjoyed. Sal packed up, gave me a wink, and drove off. That evening, Sarah and I sat on a new bench Sal had also forgotten in the yard. The "For Sale" sign across the street had a "Sold" sticker plastered across it. We watched the sunset glint off the new waterfall. "You know," Sarah said, leaning her head on my shoulder, "you're a real jerk sometimes, Frank." "Hey," I said, putting my arm around her. "I was just following the rules. Besides," I listened to the sound of the real waterfall, a gentle, soothing rush. "I kind of like the sound of it." I raised my beer, toasting the new pond. The fish were already darting around, on patrol, ready to abate any larvae that dared show up. "To abatement, gentlemen," I said. "To abatement."